crafting friends. Today I'm here to show you two cards that I recently featured in a masculine card class at my home. And two of the cards we focused on using the Aqua Painters along with the Lovely as a Tree stamp set. Certainly an oldie but a goodie. I don't even know when Lovely as a Tree first came out, but it's been around as long as I've known about Stampin' Up, and it continues to be a favorite for many, many people. So two cards featuring that along with the Aqua Painters. Aqua Painters are, they come in a pack of two, and they simply are paintbrushes basically that you fill with water. What this allows us to do is add very easily some watercolor effects to our stamped images. These are, or this is one of the two cards I'll be showing you today. It uses Always Artichoke as its main color, and of course a coordinating envelope was stamped with it. And the other features this beautiful evergreen in the Lovely as a Tree stamp set. On the one you can, on the envelope you can see that it is stamped as usual. And on the card you can see that there is a watercolor effect applied using the Aqua Painters. So I'm going to show you how to do the watercoloring in both of these cards now. I hope you enjoy it, and I hope you'll give using Aqua Painters a try. Okay, I think we're ready. So I'm going to set this evergreen card aside, and I'm going to be making this card with you and showing you how I watercolored to get that watercolor effect using the Aqua Painters. Very simple, okay? So first of all, I've already prepared my cardstock and paper, and I will let you see those dimensions, of course. I've used the Stampin' trimmer to cut and score my card base. It's a standard A2 size. I am putting in the center a piece of Sahara Sand cardstock. I like the way Sahara Sand and Always Artichoke work together, but I'm doing this so that I have a lighter cardstock in the center, or inside of my card to stamp on. This strip of Sahara Sand, measuring 1.5 by 5.5, I'm going to adhere directly to the center of the card front. Okay, and I'm going to add, add these together. Okay. And I'm going to put this on my card front with dimensionals. Dimensionals always just add, just like the name implies, an extra little dimension to your cards. Gives the cardstock piece a little lift off the card base. So I'm going to center that right there, and I'm going to set this aside now because now it's time for me to watercolor. Okay, Stampin' Watercolor. So I've pulled out this stamp with the 6 different trees on it. Okay, I'm using the black archival ink, and I'm going to stamp this pretty much in the center of my watercolor paper. Okay. I'm going to give that a moment to dry, and while that's happening, I'm going to stamp the same image on the flap of my envelope. Okay, and I'm going to set these aside. You can see I have all of the dimensions here for you. Okay, I'm going to set my inky stamp to the side along with my black ink because I'm finished with that. Now I'm going to use Always Artichoke to watercolor the ground on my stamped image. But the first thing I'm going to do is simply give this closed ink pad some squeezes. And what that does when you open it is make a puddle of ink on the lid. And that's where I'm going to draw my ink from. So I'm using the Aqua Painters. I did want to show you, they come in packs of 2. They're the same, you fill them both with tap water, and then you use them over and over, but one has a slightly smaller tip than the other. And on this detailed image, I'm going to use the one with the smaller tip. Now what I'll show you first is you just need a tiny bit. I'm not putting ink all over the brush. And you can see there it comes out pretty dark, okay, when I'm pulling it directly from the center. Now if I want to dilute that for a lighter tone or lighter shade, I just squeeze a drop of water in there and mix it with some of the ink. And you can see right away I'm getting a darker tone. It's more watery and it will spread for me. Okay, so I kind of do a combination of both. And remember, start out with less because you can always add more, but you cannot take away. So I'm going to go in here with my dark shades. And you can see I'm not terribly precise, but I'm using the stamped images as a guide. I'm hitting those areas. Okay, now I'm going to go back over it and do just some brushing in there. A slight amount of water is coming out of my Aqua Painter as I do this. And so you can see it's giving me various shades in there. You can even see it's pulling in a little, drawing out a little bit of the brown pigment that's in the ink as well. Okay, and then if I want to make some spots a little darker, I'm just going to pick up some of that ink from the middle, just like I did here, and add a little bit more. I might darker a little bit bottom a little bit darker as well. Okay, so that's it, quick and simple, right? Okay, I'm going to close up my Always Artichoke ink pad and set that aside. And now I'm going to use Soft Sky to fill in around the trees. Before I do that though, I do not want to, cross-contaminate the inks, I guess you would say. So I'm just going to make sure that my Aqua Painter is clean. So what I do is I just squeeze a drop and I just keep going back and forth, and you can see that it's all clear, meaning my Aqua Painter is now clean and I'm ready to use it with the next color. And since I'm watercoloring, I want that ink on the lid for me to pick up. And I'm just going to go kind of in between. You don't have to worry about being real exact. I'm not going through the trees. However, if you think that is the look you want, by all means, do so. But I'm just going around them real lightly like this. You can see it's taking me almost no time at all. It's really a very quick and easy technique. And I promise you, whoever receives the card like this from you will be very impressed, thinking you are a watercolor artist, having no idea that you have been able to do it this quickly and this easily using the Stampin' Up watercolors or Stampin' Up Aqua Painters. Okay, and again, like I said, you can make it softer or darker depending on how much ink you want to put in there. And you can see I just went around the trees. I did not go through them, and that also makes my trees pop out a little bit more as well. Okay, so that is my completed piece. Ordinarily, I would tell you let that dry for a moment, but I'm going to go ahead and adhere it to my card front so you get another look at the finished product. Don't you love how quick and easy that was? Something everybody can do. And you can use all kinds of different stamped images to do that. So there's the first one. And quickly we'll go over the dimensions for that card. Always artichoke, you need 5.5 by 8.5, scored at 4 1/4 for your card base. You also need a piece that measures 4 7/8 by 2 7/8. And our Stampin' Up Stampin' Trimmer is wonderful. It's very easy to read 1/8 and even 1/16 of an inch. I don't do 1/16, I usually stick to the 1/2, 1/4, and 1/8. And then the Sahara sand is 4 5/8 inches. That's the layering here. And the 1.5 by 5.5 is the strip we put down the center of the card. And of course, 5 1/4 and 4 inches for the inside piece. The watercolor piece I measured at 4.5 by 2.5 inches. So give that one a try, but don't leave just yet because I've got another card to show you. Remove that and put this on for you. Okay, so this is the card I showed you earlier. We did the very same stamped image of the evergreen. This one we left alone, and this one we did some watercoloring with our Aqua Painter. So let me show you how to do this first. While that's drying, we will put the rest of the card together. Okay, so from my Lovely as a Tree set, I'm pulling out the tall evergreen. And this time I am not going to use a stamp pad. I am going to color the entire stamp, all of the rubber stamp, with the Garden Green Stampin' Right marker. Notice I'm not coloring this way with the tip. I want to preserve my tip for when I am coloring in small spaces. What I'm doing is coloring with the side of the marker. And I'm even going to get this little bit of grass down here. I want to make sure it's inked up very well all the way around. I'm going to go over it again. Okay. Then I'm going to use my early espresso because I want the look of the tree trunk hidden inside there as well. So I'm going to bring it down the center just like this. I'm going to wipe this off because this will pick up some of that green ink I already have on there. And I'm going to go over it again with the early espresso marker. Okay. Now you need to huff on this. And before I show you what the huffing is, I will tell you the purpose of huffing is to re-moisten the ink. Okay. While I was putting the brown ink on, the Garden Green ink was probably already drying. These are water-based inks, so I just huff on it and it re-moistens it so it's good for me to stamp. So here goes the huffing. Okay, so there you see I have the stamped image. Okay, ready for watercoloring, but I'm going to set that aside. And while I'm still stamping, I'm going to do the very same thing and stamp my envelope. Are you envelope stampers? Do you like to decorate your envelope, giving your recipients or friends and family an indication that something homemade is coming? I often thought, what do the mail carriers think when they see fancy envelopes? Who knows? Again, huffing to re-moisten the ink. And I'm stamping on the corner front of my envelope. Okay, perfect. Okay. Now, What I'm doing with this is I am still not taking any ink from an ink pad. We've only used the 2 markers. What I'm going to do is just very gently dab with my Aqua Painter. And you can see how it is blending in all those details, so it looks like the tree started out being a watercolor. Okay, simply easy. I'm not doing anything fancy, just dabbing and moving it around. Okay. How many of you think you can do this? I'm sure all of you can. Very quick, simple techniques. And again, just a nice little technique to add a twist to your stamped cards and other paper crafts. Okay, let me go down that center a little bit to get that brown. Here, I'm going to go across the grass a wee bit. Bring out some more of that brown. Okay, and I think that's great. It looks wonderful, and you can see how different one looks from the next. Obviously, with watercoloring and even homemade projects, handmade projects, there's always going to be some variation, and that's what makes handicrafts special. Okay, so while this is drying, I'm going to put together the rest of the card. I have garden green cut to the standard A2 size, 5.5 by 8.5, and scored at 4¼ inches. My insert, so that I have a lighter shade of cardstock to write on, is 5¼ by 4 inches. Okay. And this is going to be a portrait or vertical card. Let me pull over my Big Shot for a moment. I'm using the wood grain embossing folder, so I'm putting a piece of soft suede in here. It measures 5¼ by 4 inches. And I am using Stampin' Up's new Big Shot platform. This is the platform that now comes with any Big Shot that's purchased. If you got yours a long time ago like I did, you know it came with a platform that had a couple of flaps and you were opening and closing. This does not have this. It's one thick platform and then this one thin adapter to lay on top. And it gives you directions right here. The thin die adapter is for doing framelits and thinlits and edges. So if you're not doing those things, you simply set it aside. The Big Shot platform then tells you that this is for embossing folders, okay? And you're embossing a single sheet of cardstock at a time, okay? So it tells me put the platform down, put one of my cutting plates down, my embossing folder with the cardstock in it, and another cutting plate on top. And I'll roll that through. And it made this beautiful wood grain impression on my cardstock. I love that. Okay, I'm going to add that to the front of my card base. Then I'm going to add my watercolor image to this piece of garden green, but all the way to the left-hand side. I want that equal border on the top, the left, and the bottom. So I've got a long border here. So just like in the original, I'm going to rip that edge, okay? This is the time we do want you to rip your paper. And you notice I just pull it towards me gently. Doesn't have to be perfect. Some people worry about they're not good at tearing. That's tearing not straight. Tearing's not supposed to be straight. So just tear it gently and you will be just fine. Adding some dimensionals. this, I'm putting it to the lower left corner of my card just for a change. Okay, so there you have it. Here's my original on the left and the one I completed just now on the right. So I think they're wonderful. Okay, so let me go over also the dimensions for this card. Okay, the garnet green 5.5 by 8.5 is your card base. It's scored at 4.25 inches. You used a piece of 4-inch by 3-inch garden green. That's the one that we did the tearing on. Remember to put your watercolor paper on the garden green before you tear it. The soft suede on the front that we embossed with the wood grain embossing folder is 5.25 inches by 4 inches. We put a liner inside using crumb cake cardstock. It's 5.25 by 4 inches. And finally, our watercolor paper is 3.75 by 2 inches. So there you have it. Some great cards, quick and easy, using some stamps from Lovely as a Tree, an old-time favorite, Aqua Painters, ink pads, and some markers. Okay, ink pads and Aqua Painters only on the first card, and markers and Aqua Painters only on the second card. So there you have it. Give these watercolor techniques a try, and I hope to see you back at Stampin' Peace. Have a great day.